Hello Internet, this is Oriel Klasowski talking to you from Paper Rust. I hope you are enjoying your loneliness, solitude, in isolation, and that you are well prepared for the end of days. Now, today I'm going to show you how to create your own very personal website. Yep, this is an example website I've made, and to do that we're just going to use HTML and CSS, which are the atoms of web development, and all of these new platforms that are showing up every year or so, they are all using heavily HTML and CSS, and these languages are free. They are available on every device that can run a web browser. They can be used to create websites and phone applications, and even standalone applications using some sort of a single board computer or something. Now I'm going to use this console here. I hope it's not too confusing for you, but I'm just going to describe what I do as I do it, so don't worry about it. We are learning one thing at a time. Yes, no need to overload your brain. So I'm using Touch to create some files here. This is an empty directory, and we're going to create 3 different files. The first one is going to be index.html, and that's going to be our HTML, which will hold all of our content. The second page file we'll need is grid.css, I'm going to call it. And grid is a powerful modern CSS tool that will take care of all of our composition. And the last file we'll need is style.css, which will make this website beautiful. I'm using ls to look at the directory, and I can see I've created these 3 files here, but they are all empty files. So let's put some content in it. To edit text, I'm using Vim, which I love Vim. Vim is fantastic, but if you're just starting to learn web development and you do not know Vim, I would probably suggest starting with something different. So I'm going to edit index.html, and we'll need to put some things here. So HTML is a marketing language, which means we will mark all of our different content in tags. That's just what HTML is, and the main tag we're going to use is the HTML tag, and within it we're going to have the head, which is where all of our metadata would go. Now, one type of metadata that you just must do in these modern times is the char set, which for me is going to be UTF-8 and probably for you too. This is just the mandatory stuff, and now we go to work. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to have to link our other files to this. The index is the main it's the main page, and it's going to have to link everything in. So it's going to be our 2 style sheets. One of them is going to be in this current directory, file called grid.css. You may remember that we have created it just now. Now, for brevity's sake, links don't need to be closed, but this is a rarity in HTML. Most other tags do need to get a close to them, such as the head, which means we are done with our metadata, and we can move on to the body, is where all of our content will go. But we have no content, and you can see in this example site that all of my content here is just gibberish. So we're just going to do the same. We're going to go over to Google, and we're going to grab some lorem ipsum, which is just standard gibberish for the web. So we're just going to go for Google and get ourselves a lorem ipsum generator. Seems all right. Let's just grab all the stuff in here. Fantastic. So a fully fledged website, it should work now. I can use just go ahead and use Firefox to open up my index.html file. And you can see Firefox is recognizing this as a website and is putting all of our wonderful, beautiful, interesting content inside. But this is far from what we want to do. There is still one more job that we will need HTML to do, and that's to mark the different parts of the website as different things. Oh wait, I'm not gonna use Firefox for this one. I'm gonna use reload. It's gonna refresh for me the web page, so I'm not gonna have to do that personally, which is going to be mighty convenient. So to mark things up, we're gonna go back to our HTML file, and the first thing we'll have to do is mark an H1, which means this is our first header in this web page. We're gonna open it and close it, and everything that is between the opening part and the closing part is going to be our header. So we'll save that, and you can see that we now have a header, lorem ipsum. Fantastic. Another thing that I would like to add is some buttons. We're gonna just capitalize that for good measure and add our button here, close it, and just have a good four more of these. Yeah, fantastic. Yes. So you can see now we'll have some buttons here, which are wonderful standard buttons. We'll definitely change that as soon as possible, but there are some other things to take care of first. One thing we have to take care of is, even though here in our index.html file, when we view it as a text file, we can see that the content is clearly separated into different paragraphs. But the web browser does not recognize them as different paragraphs. That's because HTML does not understand new lines, it understands tags. And the tag for a paragraph is P. So we'll add some P paragraphs, P tags, to make sure that everything is nice and fine. We'll have 4 more of these as well. And that should, yes, arrange our website pretty much fairly nicely, fairly presentable. But of course it needs to be much better. But this is all we will need from HTML. And the browser is just using its default settings to try and present that data to us in a way. But no, we're going to have to not use the default settings and just do our own thing. So the first thing we'll have to do is go to grid.css, and this is where we are going to take care of all of our templating and the way that we compose the website. So CSS is different than HTML. We don't have tags here, we have rules of styling, but we do refer to the tags. So the first thing we'll have to do is we take the body tag that was in the HTML, if you remember. That is the tag that contains all of the content. And we're gonna ask CSS to display our website as a grid, which is by far the most powerful display of them all. And what grid does, it's going to separate all of the body of our website into columns and rows. Now by default it will only have one column, and it will span as many rows as it needs to hold all of the data. So if I save that, you can see every single HTML element is going to have its own personal row, and it's just going to sit there and exist in its own row. But this is far too simple for our needs. So we'll have to go to back to the CSS, and we're going to grid template. I know I've misspelled that, but we'll just finish it for a second. Grid, yes. In CSS we can repeat stuff. I'm going to repeat as many times as I have buttons. I would like to have one column for each button. So I have 5 buttons, so I'm going to repeat 5 times, and each time I repeat it's going to be 1 fraction of the entire thing. So you will see that And now our page is divided into 5 columns, which are all the same size, 5 equal fractions, which is great. You will see that everything is much more organized now, but it's fell from grace, as they say. So we'll need to specify some more things. The first thing we'll have to do is we'll take our header file. Now the header, you can see now, it just have its own little snuggly little cell here that it lives in, but it needs to span for the entire row. So specify that we are styling age 1 right now, and we're gonna just say that in whatever grid columns is concerned, we're going to start from the first row and we're gonna end in the last row. So 1 nominates the first row and -1 nominates the last row. So that takes care of our header, but also our paragraphs. They also need to span wider. But I'm not gonna have them go from the first row to the last one. I'm just gonna have them go from the second row to the second to last, because I enjoy some margin over there, some room to place. Maybe an advertisement could go here, maybe a little note, little picture, who knows. Some room is just going to be useful. And we'll save that, and that's our website templated. So that's fantastic. Good job, grid. And now just let's make it beautiful. So we'll go over to style.css, and here we are going to the beautiful part of CSS. There are options in CSS to style everything in whatever manner or way you shall desire. Just use Google, find the options you need and use them. It's a delight to use. But for now, I'm just going to show you some of the more common options, or maybe the options that I more commonly use. The first thing I'm going to do, and I do it every time, I select apostrophe, which means every element. And I despise margin. So it's just gonna be 0. So every element is gonna have exactly 0 margin from now on, until maybe I change my mind. And one other thing we're gonna have to do is pick box sizing, and that's going to be border box, which means that when we think of the element, we will think also of its border. Just a more intuitive way to size your boxes, you know. Just what I do, and I recommend you do the same. Now this made everything much snuggler, and the way we're going to expand it is not by margin, but by padding. You'll see what I mean in a second. So we're gonna start from top to bottom, style our H1, which is our header lorem ipsum. We're gonna provide it with some much needed paddings, maybe even 3 EM. Now EM is going to be the units that we will use here. You could also use pixels. So if I change this, I can set it to say 40 pixels, which is also, I mean, it's possible, you can do whatever you want, but EM is just going to be far more convenient in the future later on. Now another thing we'll need here is font size, because this header is just a smudge too small. I believe it's 2 EM by default, so that should change nothing, but I'm just gonna double it. Oh, that's too much. I'm gonna 1 by half it, should be fine. Yeah, so that's font sizing, and of course we would love to have some background color here. Make it gray. And I would also like to add my background image, which is it just makes the website much nicer if you have a nice image there. And what's nicer than my own personal art? So we have no art here, but so I'm just gonna copy it over to this directory, and you see now it's here. So nice. Now this option, I'm gonna use URL. That's fantastic. And now we're hidden our text. So we'll pick the color, and color stands for the color of the text. Make it white. Gorgeous stuff. Now let's change this background position. I've just tried left and it worked, so just if it works, right? Next we'll move on to our buttons. Now our buttons require a lot of work. Look at this. This is horrible. This is horrible stuff. So first thing we'll have to do is give it some padding, as we do. Some padding, maybe 1 EM. Let's see if that makes sense. I'm thinking even like 0.7 EM should be. Yes, that's what we want. And we'll give it a background color. We'll give it the most beautiful of colors, black. Of course, the text should be white. And look at that. These are some, there definitely are getting there, but this border is just, it's hideous. So we will go over to border. Now I would like to keep the border there, but it's definitely gonna have to have a different style. Right now it's trying to be all three-dimensional, which is just, it's not three-dimensional. So why is it even trying? We're just gonna pick solid. And for the border color, we will have it black, because no color goes as well with black as black. Add some maybe font size. Should be slightly bigger. Yeah, even more slight bit. Yes, gorgeous. And yeah, but these buttons, they don't really appear to be buttons. You see, they should change when I hover over them. So we'll just ask CSS to do that. We'll say again buttons. When hovered, should be styled differently, right? First thing, the background color should change, gray, to fit with our header. And the color could stay. We'll just add an underline, so it's going to be text decoration underline. And yeah, maybe we will change the color. We'll change the color to be black. Just a touch of more black wouldn't hurt, right? Nice and depressing. We've done, this is our buttons. Actually, you know, the pointer, our cursor should change, right? It should be more obvious that we want people to click it. This is clickbait style land. So our cursor should be a pointer. And yeah, that's great. And we have one more type of element to go. These are our paragraphs, which for some reason it appears have been broken at some point or another. Who knows? Who knows what happened to them? We'll just have to wait and see if they fix themselves. All right, so pick our paragraphs, and we would like to add some paddings. As we do, maybe 2 EMs. I'd like to have some substantial paddings there. Oh yeah, yes, marvelous. Maybe just over here at the top we need some more padding, so we go over here and add some padding top. make it 3 EM, maybe even 4. Take a look at that. That's nice. You see, this is interesting though, because I've written the padding top below the general padding, and if I was to do it the other way around, it wouldn't work. See, doesn't work, because what's happening here? First of all, I'm asking CSS to have my top padding be 4 EM, but then later I ask it to have all padding just 2 EM, so it just overrides the top one, so it needs to be below. And I fixed the top padding, but now all of this became too much, so we'll just remove the bottom top padding. Just nothing at all, please. That's nice. Just nice. We'll need some to fix it up back again. We'll just do this at the body. So body should have some padding bottom of maybe 4 EM as well. Yep, that makes sense. This is getting quite close to where it needs to be. One thing I would like to add, I am a sucker for some word spacing. We'll have, don't overdo it, just a very small amount of word spacing can, not word spacing, no. Letter spacing, yeah, that's the stuff. Because 0.7, you see, this is too much letter spacing, though it does have its charm. Yes, this is fantastic. We would add some word spacing actually, slightly. Yes, and well, we might want to have all of this text hover to the middle. Let's try that. No, we're not writing poetry here, so we'll have that stick to the left. Yes. Maybe some text indent instead. Like 3 EMs, maybe. Who knows? Maybe just 2 EMs. Maybe 2.4. Perfect stuff. So we have all of that. We have a nice website, and it appears to be done, but alas, it is not. You see, this is a standard font. This is just the default font that they would give us, and we can't use the default font, right? It's just ridiculous. So we'll go over to fonts.google.com. Google provides us with a great variety of free fonts. I mean, there are many sources for free fonts online, but this one is really good, and I've seen something there that's, oh, what's that? Oh, that's just how my handwriting looks. So we'll take that. It's a two-step process. You have to press the little plus, and then you go to family selected, and now they're just gonna tell it to you straight and simple. You take this, put it in your HTML. You take that, you put it in your CSS. So since we are already in CSS, we'll take this. We're going to apply this lovely rule to everything in the apostrophe. Remember, apostrophe is for everything. Well, I am getting a bit drunk, I won't lie. This should go into our head. So we go over to index in our head, which is where our metadata, and it wouldn't surprise you that a font is a type of a metadata, right? And let's just see this in action. Wow, this is horrible. Yes, this header needs to be much bigger. We'll go back to style, And in header, font size, we'll amp that up to 4. Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. And yeah, so this is our website. Hope you enjoyed. And next time we're gonna link in these buttons so that they would all lead to different content. We're going to do it the modern way of serving a single page application, which is just going to make your website far more crispy and reactive. We're just gonna do it using vanilla JavaScript, not how they used to do it in the old days. In the old days, what you would do is you'd go to your HTML file and you would just duplicate it. You'd have 2 HTML files, and here where you have all of your paragraphs and content, you would change that. You would delete all of the paragraphs, write in new ones, and then have these buttons. Instead of buttons, you would have links to different pages in your own website. But nowadays we don't do it anymore. This is links are more considered to be a link to a different website. And within my own website, I want to serve all of your content dynamically using JavaScript on your own machine. So it will be much faster and it wouldn't require any more journeys to the internet. Yeah, so we'll do that, and we would also hopefully host this lovely piece of art on the web, and I'll show you how to do that simply and painlessly. Hope you enjoyed. Again, have a lovely isolation.